Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yep, that'd be me. That would be I. I don't know. It's November 14. How'd that happen? Good God, halfway through November. Well, here we are. It's a Monday, and a lot of stuff has happened since last we spoke. Most of it pretty dang good for a change. I must admit, I'm just feeling more and more relieved at the bullet we dodged, and the sense that Americans were unwilling to go as far to the right as the Republican Party would have them go. I think the American people voted for sanity instead of crazy. And I think they voted for, well, Robert Reich said that there was no red wave, which we have seen, but let us be clear, there was no blue wave either. This was not a change election. This was a stability election. This was the American electorate saying, we want things stabilized. We cannot tolerate this craziness and constant chaos and drama. And in that respect, it's not so much a vindication for the Democratic Party as it is a repudiation of the Republican Party. That would be my take, I think. And Democrats have got to be very careful about making too much of this election. I think the greatest thing we had going for us was Donald Trump. And if you remove him and his acolytes, I'm not so sure that we would see the same kind of outcome. I think Tom Friedman, who I usually find milquetoasty and actually still is, I think he pretty much echoed my feelings. He said, all right, we can hold off moving to Canada. We can forgo the call to the New Zealand embassy on how one becomes a citizen there. And he said that Tuesday's election really was the most important test since the Civil War of whether the engine of our constitutional system, our ability to peacefully and legitimately transfer power, remains intact. And that's the reason I feel so much relief. For all the talk about election denialism and all of that, our system worked again. The people voted, and the people changed course. So our banged up democracy is still alive. if not totally well. Friedman said, "We have just dodged one of the biggest arrows ever aimed at the heart of our democracy." I would agree with that, and that's why I feel such a sense of relief. But again, the cautionary note is that all of the things that we were so worried about still exist. The things that are attempting to undermine our democracy, and that would be Republicans trying to keep power by gerrymandering, by lying, by a constant effort to polarize, and breaking down faith in our institutions. And the Supreme Court, as currently constituted, is going to be a horrible weight on our democracy for some time. So Friedman said everything is not all right. We are as divided coming out of this election as we were going into it. But the American people showed up and did a course correction. Thank God. Thank God. I am seeing, Biden over there in Bali. Is that where he is? And I think he's looking pretty spry. I suppose the results of the election put a little bit of a lift in his step. But he has a birthday this coming weekend. It's a big one. He's going to be 80 years old. He is already the oldest president in our history. And with every day, he solidifies that record. So never before has an 80-year-old held the office. And it, to me, is now the biggest elephant in the room. I think the majority of Democrats really hope that he does not run again. The job for someone who is intent on doing it, as he is extraordinarily stressful and taxing. It's a 24/7 job. Requires a great deal of nimbleness, emotionally, mostly. And I give this guy so much credit for his first 2 years. Just really amazing. And I'll remain confused about his poll numbers because the guy has had extraordinary success in so many ways with a divided government. At 80 years old, which would make him what? If he were to run and be reelected. 82 years old, running for president. 82. Being president. 83, 84, 85, 86. No, we have watched as presidents, all presidents, age in office. And they do. But this guy doesn't have a lot of wiggle room. So I really, God, I hope that somehow we figure out a way. And in some respects, he brought this on by his choice of vice president, because he didn't pick a strong vice president. He picked a history-making vice president. But I don't know of anybody who thinks Kamala Harris would be a great presidential candidate. I mean, she didn't even fare well in the Democratic primary that when she was running to be the presidential nominee. So being as old as he was, I wish he had chosen somebody who could more readily and with the support of many people step in his stead. And I just I don't know. So it brings us to this uncomfortable conversation, and we've had it before, but man, turning 80. If not Joe Biden, then who? And I don't know. My sense is that it should be a governor. Remove, just as, the Republicans are looking to a governor, you get away from the horrors of Washington politics. And a governor is an executive position. So if you get someone who is proven to be a vote getter, a strong executive, is capable in every way, that would seem, but doesn't come with all the crap that comes with spending a political career in D.C. I would think that's the right way to go. It wouldn't be wrong. Who was it? It's Frank Bruni. He did a big long thing of who he thinks are the front runners at this point. You see, this is what we do. This is, again, predictive journalism. Although this is really important to start to think about. And his three top picks, the ones to pay the closest attention to because they are in position, would be the vice president, Kamala Harris. And then he suggests Pete Buttigieg, who is so adept, so bright, so capable, but he sure doesn't excite Black people, and that's a big deficit if you're a Democratic candidate. And we won't even mention that he's married to a guy and has two little biracial children. But then people who would be put off by that wouldn't be voting for a Democrat anyway. So I don't really think that figures in. And then the woman who did something that blew everybody away on election night, and that would be Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I mean, she seems to have it all. She sure does. And she's somebody that in these early days of trying to figure this out, she's somebody who attracts me a great deal. I don't know. Here are the other names he throws out as people that people are talking about. And, you know, very few of them seem to be presidential to me. But then I guess you don't seem presidential until they start playing, you know, that then you're presidential. What is that called? Ruffles and Flourishes? Is that what that's called? What an odd name. I think that's what that's called. Ruffles and Flourishes. Okay, they also say, Bruni says, keep an eye on Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren. I don't think so. Roy Cooper, who is a governor of a southern state, North Carolina. Jared Brown, the liberal senator, unlikely liberal senator from the red state of Ohio, who I think famously said about 4 years ago that when he looked in the mirror, he didn't see a president looking back. So I think Sherrod lacks the ego, the ambition, which of course makes him very, very interesting to me. You imagine somebody who really sort of didn't want it. I don't know if you can win with that attitude. Illinois Governor Pritzker, California Representative Ro Kahana. So I don't know. There's others. And it could be somebody comes out of the nowhere. I don't know what that would be. And I don't know what you're thinking. I know a lot of people are saying, Josh Shapiro. Well, he hasn't been a governor yet. So Josh Shapiro, maybe in 4 years or 8 years or 12 years. I also, speaking of that, saw somebody who suggested, and this I found very interesting, that Ron DeSantis might actually surprise everybody and not go for it in 2024. He's youngish, and he might want things to settle down a little bit and have another term as governor, as the king of Florida, and avoid the bloodbath of the Republicans trying to come to terms with who they are, what they've become, and how to get rid of Donald Trump. And it would be a surprising move on DeSantis's part, but maybe for his ambitions, a smart one. I don't know. So, I want to thank the American people, those who voted, for pushing back on the lunatics. God bless them. A firm, unequivocal push back. This was good. You know, so now that we've kept the Senate, the Georgia race, of course, would just be to win that, would just give us a gain of one seat. And it's very important that we win that seat. It's important on so many fronts. And my sense is that I would think that our chances of re-electing Warnock are greater now that that race is not the deciding race of who controls the Senate. That's already a done deal. The Democrats have the Senate. So I'm guessing that what we excuse me. I'm sorry, that did throw me. Excuse me. I was never good at that on television. When you had something in your ear and they would talk to you while you were talking, I would always get flummoxed. And I've just been told I have a caller, and that flummoxed me. Forgive me. And I lost my train of thought. I had a thought. I swear to God, I had a thought. Oh, right, Herschel Walker. Let me finish it. So why would Herschel Walker he doesn't make a difference anymore? He'd still be in the minority. The only reason to vote a totally incompetent, hypocritical fool like him in would be to take the majority of the Senate and to put Mitch McConnell back in the majority leader seat. But that's gone now. So there's no reason. And that will depress the Republican voters. I mean, there's no reason. He doesn't give you anything except the embarrassment of having him represent your party. So I'm thinking we're going to win Georgia. That's what I'm thinking. Phew. Okay, caller. Hello.
Hello. Hello, Lynn.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi. Hey, you were reading that guy that wrote that, was he a journalist or whatever, like, about presidents. I have a hard time even reading anything or listening to anything any of those people say after this last election. They got it so wrong.
Sure.
And it's just, I cannot respect anything they say anymore. It's really hard to watch TV with what they say. They were so off, and they exaggerated stuff so much just to get the people to watch TV. So the news, even the writers are terrible anymore. There's a few, but their predictions are terrible. I mean, some of the predictions were just way off, and I don't know.
Well, you know what? That's not going to change. That's not going to change at all, because that's how they attract audience and make their money. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are some of those yappers are worth listening to. I have trouble getting through all of it, so I tend to read. Then if I find somebody annoying, I just stop reading and go to something else. But on television, you're stuck with the show they're presenting, and you don't have as much control. But yeah, you have to believe that there are still good people out there who are doing important journalistic work, and that we should trust our own abilities to think, in an intelligent manner, to figure out for ourselves who to listen to, who to pay some attention to. Because I don't pretend to know a lot of stuff, and I do rely on having a measure of trust in other people who are better educated in whatever it is, politics or whatever, or how things function. And some have proved to be better prognosticators than others. But yeah, the polls and whatever the narrative is, I say hooey on that. We understand now that it is just about creating a story, and they go with whatever story they think will work. And the story they came up with this time was a bunch of hooey. I mean, based on historical precedent, but a bunch of hooey. So.
Okay, then.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Oh my God, I am so embarrassed. Josh, thank you. It's hail to the chief. Well, what's ruffles and flourishes? Ruffles and flourishes, you think, is played during the inauguration? What? What's ruffles and flourishes? Somebody sing it for me. So da 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 da. That's hail to the chief. I think you're right. So I'm embarrassed. But what's ruffles? What? Huh? Okay, what's ruffles and flourishes? Hello, caller. Maybe the caller knows. Hello?
Lynn? Hello, Lynn?
Yes. Yes.
Good morning. Yes, I'm sorry. This is John from Greensburg. Although I haven't lived in Greensburg for some time, but I do not recognize the song "Ruffles and Flourishes." Sorry, drawing a blank on that one. But I'm
somebody before this hour's up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was out. I was one of those who was out stumping for Shapiro and to a greater extent Fetterman on election day. So much more buoyant mood than I was in the weeks immediately preceding the election. Although, unfortunately, it looks increasingly unlikely we're going to hold the House.
Right.
So there's going to be all sorts of insanity going on there in the lower chamber.
Man.
It's going to be run by the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Kevin McCarthy isn't going to be running.
Yeah, right.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and the white supremacist Paul Gosar and all the other deplorables, and I'm going to use that term because it's actually too kind for them. Little post-mortem on the election. First of all, the Florida. Okay, the Democratic Party collapsed in Florida. Ron DeSantis won his first election by under 1%. Now, I know that you've had a massive influx of white conservative retirees in that area, and also Venezuelan immigrants who just quote, anything to the left of Tsarism with communism. But look, when you run a retread like Carl, I didn't even know who the Democratic candidate for governor was in Florida until
they didn't even try. Charlie Crist,
Crist
is a loser, and he's how many times do they have to put him up so he can lose again?
And I'm sorry to say this too, Beto O'Rourke. Okay, no, you got to start rebuilding at the local level in Florida and in Texas. Okay, you don't. Beto O'Rourke. I'm sorry, he's not going to win the big one. He's a celebrity loser. Now, in Wisconsin, okay, your home state reelected one of the dumbest, most corrupt men to ever serve as a senator. They accomplished it. They accomplished it because of racism, quite frankly.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, Wisconsin,
because all the other, just so we know that it's without a doubt, yes, all of the other statewide candidates that won were Democrats. The only one that lost, and he didn't lose by a lot, was the black guy.
Correct.
And Wisconsin has, yes, okay, all right. So there it is.
And now one other thing about your home state is that Wisconsin is what Republicans want to impose on the nation as a whole in this sense. Democrats won 51% of the vote in Wisconsin. They're going to have about a third of the legislative
of the state house. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
House.
That's not a democracy. So the people vote, and 51% vote for the Democrats, and yet the Republicans take 70% of the seats. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is gerrymandering, and that is anti-democratic in every way.
Yeah, and that's also, I mean, now Ohio has become a more, as frankly, its economy has remained in the doldrums. It's moved to the right. But again, Ohio heavily gerrymandered. Even Florida heavily gerrymandered. And Democratic appointed judges don't allow that sort of thing. Look what happened in New York, in New York State, when the Democrats drew up a map that was a tad too unfair.
That's right.
Democratic dominated court struck it down.
Right. And look what happened. Hey, I want to. I just want to add something.
One last thing I am happy about. Looks like Toxic Lake is going down. In Arizona.
Oh, I hope. I also want to point out, because you mentioned how important a state Supreme Court is in knocking down these gerrymanders. Wisconsin Supreme Court, every election, has been knocking off Republicans and putting in Democrats. That court is not as right-wing as it was 2 years ago, and another few cycles, because 51% of Wisconsin voters are voting Democrat. So it takes a while to repurpose the Supreme Court.
Right, but if you want to look at something else that the Republicans, the direction they want to move in, is that in Ohio, their court did strike down the gerrymandered map, but the Ohio legislature just ignored it until to the point where when the court finally said, "Hey, enough! We're ordering you to discard that map," they came back and said,
too late.
"Well, there's not enough time. It's too late."
That's right. They ran out the clock.
Yeah.
They're
lawless.
They're just
shameless.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you very much, John. Thank you.
Have a
lawless.
Good day.
You too. Shameless. Relentless. That's your Republicans. Yeah. Right. God help us. Okay. So wait. I have to get back to Ruffles and Flourishes is not so much a song as it is a little musical interlude that often serves as an intro to Hail to the Chief. Oh. So is it hang on. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. That's it, isn't it? That's it. I got it. Da 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 da. That's it. I'm sure I got it now. Da 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 da. That's Ruffles and Flourishes, I think. Yeah. Now I can't get back to where. That's right. Thank you, Jonathan. You got it too. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Okay, we got it. I'm so excited. Okay, and we have a. Okay. Ed writes, perhaps Biden's low popularity rating is as reliable as the red wave prediction. Good point, Ed. Ed wonders, how does that get measured? I saw something today, and I don't know how much it would have, it's not just so let's say a pollster says, and what do you think of Biden? You know, a lot of Democrats of a more leftish persuasion, Bernie Sanders persuasion, when asked that question, might say not much, right? They vote for him, they'll vote for him, but they say, yeah, ain't my kind of Democrat. Too wishy-washy, to this, that, and not. Who? So, yeah, how do they come up with that figure? I don't know. And I just can't figure why he should have such low ratings. Little Tony points out that the Republicans who would be coming after Biden if he were to run again as being too old. Are you kidding me? And I would agree with them. Let me tell you something. Sorry, little Tony, I'll get right back to you. I'm going to be 75 in 2 months. So Biden's 5 years older than I am. And I have to tell you, 75 is old. And there's no way I have the physical stamina I once had. I would also argue my brain is not quite as facile as it once was. I can no more imagine putting another 5 years on top of the ones I've got now, and then thinking that I would want to be the president of the United States. Good God Almighty. It's just too old. Unless you're some kind of superhuman, and he's not. And little Tony points out that the argument about being too old coming out of Republicans is a bunch of hypocrisy, since they just elected Charles Grassley of Iowa, and he's 89. He's 89. Joe Biden's a young pup compared to him. Do you imagine you elect an 89-year-old man to a 6-year term? Just ridiculous. That's a gerontocracy, rule by old people. And we need the young people to continue showing up so that we get rid of this and we let younger people in. It's one of the reasons we don't have that strong a bench, as far as we can tell. We don't allow younger people to move into positions of leadership. Okay, and speaking of positions of leadership, and it was mentioned by the caller that looks like the Republicans will probably take the House, but they're going to take it with such a razor thin, by 2 seats, 3 seats at the most. That is not even if they were all in lockstep and a very, very unified group, that would be a tough thing for any Speaker of the House to hold together. But they are not unified, these Republicans. They are at each other's throats. And the people who don't want moderation of the Republican message they got their knives out already. That's why there's an attempt to delay the votes for who their leaders will be in both houses, because there are people who blame McCarthy and blame McConnell, and they want them gone. Now, I don't know who replaces them. I keep hearing Scalise has a pretty good shot now, that McCarthy, for all of his ass kissing, to make sure he would become the next Speaker of the House, it could well be he never, ever takes that gavel from Nancy Pelosi. He once famously said that when he couldn't wait for Nancy Pelosi to have to give him the gavel. That's how it works. The outgoing speaker hands the gavel over to the incoming. And he had wet dreams thinking about Nancy having to give him the gavel. And he said the only thing that he worried about is whether he would have the ability to not then hit her with it. Which, since somebody else hit her husband with a similar object, a hammer, again, just underscores how vile these people are. And I also mentioned Herschel Walker, and I came upon a quote. He said, this is about the importance of the runoff election. He darkly told someone interviewing him on Fox, "If I do not win this seat, we may not recognize America, because they seem not to like America. I can tell you right now, if I don't win that seat, no American will ever have that American dream again." Can you imagine? If I don't win the seat, no American will ever have the American dream again. Yeah, sure. Okay, Herschel. Oh, God. So, I don't think he's going to win. And speaking of quotes that I saw, because I see it's right. Shut the hell up! I got to knock that down to one ring, right? Somebody found a quote from Ulysses S. Grant, and it was after the Civil War, which he played a pretty sizable role in. And I think during his presidency, and he was questioned about what would a civil war look like again if there were another war in the United States. And he said this, and just nailed it. This is U.S. Grant. In the next Civil War, the dividing line will not be Mason and Dixon, but between patriotism and intelligence on the one side, and superstition, ambition, and ignorance on the other. Isn't that something? He said the next Civil War will be between people who truly understand what this country is meant to be and want to work toward realizing that, and ignorant and superstitious people who just want power. It'll be between patriotism and intelligence, and superstition, ambition, and ignorance. Yep. I'd say that about does it. Hey, another thing that I found out in the last few days that explained something that I was stunned by, and that was the Post-Gazette's endorsement of Oz. Because the Post-Gazette editorial, now granted, it's still blocks newspaper. But I thought that was, even for them, I was surprised. I really was. I would have understood no endorsement, but Oz, you got to be kidding me. And I found out why. I mean, the real reason. Fetterman never had a chance of getting the endorsement. You know why? Because he refused to talk to the editorial board, which you have to do if you want an endorsement. You sit with the editorial board. He would not sit with the editorial board of the Post-Gazette because it would have required him to cross a picket line. And so he never had a chance at that endorsement because of his principled refusal to cross the picket line. And by the way, speaking of the striking Post-Gazette workers, I know they had a rally this morning across from the William Penn because for the first time in a long time, the ownership or management of the Post-Gazette has agreed to sit down and supposedly bargain in good faith with the unions representing their striking employees. So that's something that is happening right now. Oh, God. There's so much stuff here. I don't know. What? Oh, I know. I know it's not a sports talk show, but wow, it's fun to win, isn't it? I forgot. I actually watched football yesterday. It's not generally what I do, but I tuned it in and found that the Steelers were not embarrassing themselves. And so it's fun to watch when your team is, competitive. And so I sort of enjoyed that. And then the next game up was my Packers, and they're pathetic this year. But damn if they didn't win as well. And I was thinking, geez, see that it's just nice to have a competitive team. It's hell to have a team that will lose. I was thinking of the Detroit Lions fans. That is a team that has just been pathetic for I cannot tell you how long. And how hard it must be to be a fan when that kind of lack of success goes on and on and on. And damn, if Detroit didn't win yesterday, and it's its second win in a row, and they looking respectable. There were a lot of great football games yesterday. The Vikings win. What else? What else did I say? There's so many close games. Anyway, I sort of enjoyed it. But I bring it up because I see I have a scrap here that I wanted to tell you that coming from Green Bay, it was hard not to be a football fan because Green Bay is, as you know, the smallest city to have a professional team and the only city that doesn't have owners. It's owned by, people like me. It's, people who bought stock that doesn't pay any dividends. Just, it's the oddest thing. And the NFL has assured that no one will ever do such a thing again. Why? It's anti-capitalist. But it makes Green Bay hard not to root for in many ways. When I was growing up, the population was about 52,000 people. That's a tiny town. And that was in the Lombardi era. And then it got a little bit bigger. So I understand that the population now is 107,000. But for an NFL town, that is still, I mean, just ridiculously small. But I want to say, having visited a number of other parks, football stadia, that Lambeau Field is hard to beat for a million reasons. One, its democratic nature, in that it's all bleachers. It's just bleachers, and everybody just packs in to the bleachers. And I remember being really pissed when they, years ago, decided that they had to put sky boxes up to, I guess, because certain owners and others just insisted that there be a warm place above the rabble to watch the game. And so it now has that as well. But if you're out in the cold, literally, you're in a bleacher. There ain't anywhere else you're going to be. And it's not just that, it's the whole complex that is there. And the New York Times did a piece on it the other day, how the team built, it's like Lambeau Field for Green Bay is the place. I mean, if you go to Green Bay, what the hell is there to look at? I mean, I could suggest a few little things here and there, but no, it's Lambeau Field. It's the biggest thing you see when you fly in. And it's about the only, so it's the destination. And so they built a park right next to it. And it's more than a park, because there's restaurants and some shops and stuff like that. But mostly it's a park. And it has a big, long thing that in the winter you can slide down. What do you call those things? You can slide down it and break your neck. It has open greenery where you can throw balls. It has a place where you can time your 40-yard dash. And all of it's free. There's no cost to go in. And there's ping pong tables, there's bocce courts, there's shuffleball courts. It's a place to just go with a family and play. And it all just stays there. It's like nobody walks away with the equipment. There's cornhole sets. It's just all out there, and people come and play. And somebody said in the article, no developer would take about a third of the acreage of a development and make it a not-for-profit park for the people. But they did. And it's, again, the nature of the team not having a rich owner. And there's just something, I've just always been so proud of it. But, so there you are. And I would think, the Steelers have never been very good about making their stadium a friendly place, if you ask me. But I was used to this other way of embracing the population. So the fact that it is so accessible to people. They even have in the park a space for a book club and yoga and Tai Chi. It's just ludicrous. Tai Chi in Green Bay. Whoever would have debunk it. Oh, do you know how sick I am of spoiled brat billionaire boys? Yeah. Elon, and now this other one. My God, I didn't even know his name. The guy who looks like he just rolled out of bed. Sam Bankman-Fried. He was supposed to be this genius in cryptocurrency. And he apparently blew how much? He was worth $25 billion like 2 weeks ago or something. And he's worth nothing now. Totally bankrupt. 30-year-old genius. And I'm so sick of these people. And it turns out he had deals with, I mean, what happens with, okay, so it's as if what? We've got now Acrisure Stadium. I know, we do. And it's as if Acrisure all of a sudden went belly up, and then we don't have Acrisure Stadium, but Acrisure was supposed to be paying the Steelers God knows how much money for those naming rights for over a period of time. Well, this kid who looked like he just rolled out of bed, he has the Miami Heat arena. It's called the FTX. That was the name of his, the FTX arena. Well, FTX doesn't even exist anymore. It's kaplooey. And Major League Baseball umps were wearing FTX patches on their uniforms. Are you aware of that? Why? Your money. I didn't know umps. What are they turning like into race car drivers with patches all over them? So anyway, this is the one that you remember during the Super Bowl that Larry David was in this crypto ad. Yeah, this is it. This is the company he did the ad for. And so the Major League Baseball and Miami Heat and all these other people that had deals with this genius are now probably all going to be suing him, but he got no money. And do you know how many people had fallen for this crypto crap? And they got wiped out. He took a lot of people with him. He was quoted thusly, "I'm really sorry." Yeah. Well, yeah. Really sorry. And the fact is, he might be in true legal trouble, just as Elon Musk might be in true legal trouble. I mean, the Federal Trade Commission is looking at whether or not he's violated one of their decrees. And it's just, this was just his latest toy he wanted. So he takes a platform that a lot of people had enjoyed, me being one, and he destroys it because he can. And then blames and destroys the livelihood of people who worked there. I mean, he said he wanted to have this digital town square. Well, he's got something that looks like what's left after you drop an A-bomb on the town square. That's what he's got. And within weeks, he managed to pull that off. So just because these guys are billionaires does not mean they're brilliant. In fact, they seem to be so emotionally stunted. I'm so sick of them. And because they're so rich, they can create true havoc in the world, in people's lives. All right, I guess that's it for me. Winter came. It's okay. It's okay. It's going to be a short one. I can do this. You can do it too. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for being there. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.